Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from A.W.E. My name's A.W.E, and today we're going to learn a few more tricks and tools that we can use in pixelart.com. I recommend you watch our previous video if you want to learn a little bit more how to use this program and be a bit more comfortable with the tools that we're going to use today. The very first thing that I'm going to show you is how to open art that you've made already and save to your computer. What you're going to do first is go ahead and click File on the top of your screen, and I'm going to go to open.pixel. And because I saved the picture to my desktop, it's going to be right here, the first thing that I open. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, and then click Open. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, so what I do is I go back to the home page. Okay, if you say leave if it's something that you haven't drawn on, and I click Start Drawing again. I do New Drawing, and I do File, Open, Open, and this time it'll ask me if it's okay if it clears the current canvas. We haven't drawn anything, so that's okay. And click OK again, and now it's popped up. It's unfortunate that that happens. It doesn't always work, but usually if you try again, it'll work the second time. So now we're going to go ahead and look at our layers. Over here, I've got the background layer, and that's the only one that's selected to be visible right now by clicking this button, if you remember. And that's on the very bottom of all these other layers I made. Let's go ahead and look at the character that I made. Here I made A.W.E the octopus. He's got the same shirt as I, and he's got a paintbrush in his hand. And I also went ahead and in another layer, I gave him an optional paint palette. And I made sure to put this on top, this layer on top of the A.W.E layer, so that when I clicked to show it, it would look like it was on top. And I've also got his name, A.W.E the octopus, which I can hide if I want. That sort of thing is good if you want to make a picture that's going to be part of a comic. Let's say you want a title page. So you would have a name in a different layer, and you might save it on top of the first drawing. And then for the next slide, you might want to hide it and save it just like this if this is the first frame of the comic. Alright, so next, what else have we got here? I decided to think about what kind of things would be in the same room as this character. Well, it looks like he's a painter, and maybe he would have an easel with the drawing that he's done. And over here he's got a little plant as a decoration. Now the nice thing that these are on a separate layer means that I can move them without having to worry about the background changing or him changing if I move things. But I've got both of these furniture items on the same layer. What if I just want to move the plant or just move the easel? Well, if I click this move tool over here, you see right now I'm selected on the background layer, so it's moving the wrong thing. I'm going to go over here and make sure I've clicked the furniture, which is the layer that I want to move. And you see now it's moving the furniture around. But let's say I only want to move one of those things, right? I'm going to show you how to take something that you've made and move it to a layer all by itself. So you're going to go over here and you're going to click the select tool. And I think I'm going to move the easel. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. You want to be able to frame the entire item that you want to move in the box. Alright, so I think I've got the whole thing inside this box. I'm going to let go. And now it's created a little box here. This is if you want to change the size of the object. You can click and drag it. I think the size is good. I just want to move it. So you can click Cut. You can also click Paste or Copy. I'm going to click Cut. And now it's disappeared, you see? Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do Add Layer. and it's going to make a new layer on top. And I'm going to make sure to rename this because I've got a lot of layers and I need to remember what's going to be in them. So I'm going to write easel. And then I'm going to click on my keyboard, Control V. And you see how we've got our easel back on this own layer. Alright, so now I'm going to move it to where I want it. Let's move it a little bit more to the side of our picture. And that was just by clicking and holding. And now I can click anywhere else so that it stops selecting it. But because this is the only thing that's on this layer, if I go back to the move tool, it's going to automatically move it. Let's say I want to move Ollie around. Well, I'm going to move him. I'm going to make sure I clicked his layer, and then I'm going to move him to the side. But you see, because this was on its own layer, it didn't move with him. If I want to move it over here, I got to drag it on its own. But let's say you've done that, and you don't want to keep moving around something that you want to be part of your picture with something else. I can go ahead and click Merge Layer Down, whichever direction the layer you want to combine it with. But make sure that the layer you want to be on top stays on top. So if I merge this down, it's going to go on top of the Ollie painting. So I'm going to merge it down, and now it's a combined layer. And now it's going to move both of those things together. But make sure you're careful when you do that because it's very hard to undo if you've done a lot of other things since then. Alright, so now we've got our objects on separate layers. I'm going to go ahead and rename this Ollie, because it took the name of the thing that I moved from the top layer and replaced it. So now I've got Ollie as his own layer. I've got the plant that's going to be its own layer, but I had that named as furniture, so I'm going to change that to plant. Alright, we've got our background, our palette. This is what you can't see it now, but that's what I used for all the colors. See if I hide everything. I've got the palette over here, and that's the palette that I used, but I'm able to hide it now, so it's not in the picture. So I'm going to put the background back on, the plant back on, the easel back on. I also made a family picture of what his family might look like. And because it's so far away, I don't have to worry about adding a lot of details. You can tell that they have eyes and hair, but I don't have to draw all the little features on their faces. I'm going to bring Ollie back, and I'm going to leave the name off of this picture. But now, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make shadows behind the objects and people in your picture. So, a trick I like to do is I go above the most bottom layer. So that's going to be, for us, the palette doesn't count. So I'm going to go to background, and I'm going to do add layer because I want it to be just on top of the background layer. And I'm going to go ahead and choose black. But I don't want this layer to be so visible because watch this. If I make my brush bigger, and we're going to go back to the pencil tool, you see how that's a very dark black, right? When we have shadows, they don't make whatever's behind us completely black. That's not quite how it works. I'm going to click Ctrl-Z to undo what I just did. But it does cast a light color, so I'm going to go ahead and change the opacity of what it looks like. And so now when I color, you see how it's not all the way dark. If I go back up over here, it's going to make it look darker. And that's because I'm changing the opacity of everything that's on this layer. See, if I go ahead and go to the, let's change the opacity of the plant. It's going to make the plant almost disappear depending how much I go. So I'm going to go back to this layer. I'm going to rename it Shadows. And now we're going to go ahead and outline, oops, I undid it on accident, shadow. I'm going to erase what I did before. I'm selected on the right layer, so it's not going to erase anything else that I draw if I'm erasing in the right layer. I'm going to go back to brush or pencil tool, make sure black selected, and I'm going to change the opacity to be lighter. And now I'm going to outline whatever might have a shadow. So suddenly, our picture really comes to life. It looks like there's something actually going on. Gives us a feeling of depth in our picture. fine, whatever. I think there might be a shadow. Under a plant. Okay. So, to conclude this video, we learned how to upload our own art into pixelart.com. We learned what to do if it doesn't work the first time. We learned how to use the select tool, how to use the move tool, how to change things into different layers. We learned how to resize things. We learned how to make our very own shadows and bring some more depth into our pictures. And next week, we're going to learn how to take these backgrounds and characters that we've made and turn them into a comic so that we can have a full-on story going along with what we've made so far. So, I hope that you guys get a chance to share your art with us in the live hangouts. I hope to see you there, and I hope you continue to be creative. I look forward to seeing you, and have a great day.